Greetings all, I am Seminary Scholar, and this is my channel, where I discuss the beliefs of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. To preface, I have attended the Church's Seminary and Institute programs. However, I'm not an official representative of the Church. I'm just someone who is familiar with the material, who found it interesting and helpful, and who wants to make it more available. If you want to see what the Church has to say for themselves, please feel free to check out my resources in the description, or to look at their website at churchofjesuschrist.org. So this week, I am putting out my second part in a three-part video essay on spiritual fitness. Last week, I did an intro and explained the video essay series that I'm doing called Perspective Essays. If you want to take a look at that video, it's going to be up in the corner. But this week, we're talking specifically about spiritual nutrition, and I want to break this up into three areas. First, spiritual treats, spiritual superfoods, and lastly, I want to talk about how to metabolize spiritual food. For the purpose of this essay, when I say spiritual food, I'm referring to things that we experience in the course of a day. I'm referring to media, conversation, new ideas, news articles, things that help us understand the world around us, or things that we just experience in a day. So to start out, we have spiritual treats. And throughout this video, I'm going to be very heavily relating the spiritual nutrition aspect to the physical nutrition aspect, because there are a lot of parallels. So when we think of spiritual treats and physical treats, we think of things that maybe aren't extremely good for us, but that we enjoy consuming. We think of cookies or donuts or candy, things that we like, things that help motivate us, things that generally, for the most part, serve a purpose in our lives, but aren't necessarily nutritionally good for us. And just like in spiritual nutrition, just like in physical nutrition, I should say, shame is a problem in spiritual nutrition, because if we're constantly focusing on, oh, I shouldn't want to go play that game or watch that TV show that maybe doesn't have a deep, intrinsic moral message to it, if we keep shaming ourselves about wanting to do that thing and wanting to take a break, then it's just going to become self-defeating. And so I think it's important to understand that these are temporary things. These are things that ideally we will grow out of needing or wanting, but that until we get to that point, and I am referring specifically to my own viewpoint here, I am someone who hopes to eventually not have to rely as heavily on these things, or alternatively to transform them into things that do make me think and that do contribute to my spiritual growth. But even though they aren't the best to consume steadily, I do feel like they do have a place, especially in motivating us and helping us take a break and process other things. But to understand the negative impact of this, we need to understand that we have a limited mental capacity. That when we are devoting time to casual TV shows, casual social media, casual video games, and I'm using those words intentionally, there are video games, of all things, that have very significant meanings to them if you dig into them. There are TV shows that have very powerful messages. There is social media that is very educational and uplifting and insightful. The trick is that I'm specifically referring to the ones that don't have those traits. I'm specifically referring to the stuff that is intended to just pass time. But getting kind of back on track, we have a limited capacity to process ideas. And so if we are constantly looking forward to spending time consuming media that doesn't really possess any significant or substantial ideas, then we are devoting more thought to a thing than we are devoting time. And so it is important to just try to make sure that the things we are consuming have some substance to them, that they do make us think to some degree, because otherwise we become complacent, we become spiritually lethargic, and less prone to examine ideas, and less excited about thinking about new ideas. I love thinking about new ideas. It's great. it's very hard, but it's great. And that's the danger of these. It's not that they're bad in moderation. It's that if it's all we ever do, we become slow and lethargic. And I'm not here to shame anyone. I'm just saying that generally this is what I've found. I'm not here to tell you what's meaningful to you, what's important to you. This is just one person sharing their experience. But moving from spiritual treats, we have spiritual superfoods. These are the things that we process, that we take in, that have real meat to them. Things that have really stories, books, media, that have really substantial ideas, that make us think about what we believe in a new perspective, or take another factor into account when we're considering our beliefs. And just like many foods that are healthy, like many vegetables and things of that nature, these are harder to digest than treats or confections. And this is because they have substance, and it takes more energy, more mental energy, more spiritual energy to get through these. And this is part of why I was talking about not shaming yourself for retreating to more casual forms of media, because processing like heavy, meaty media is exhausting. It can leave you feeling exhausted. It can leave you just wanting to do something that doesn't require as much effort. And again, I'm not here to tell you how much of each thing you should do. I'm just saying that there is a balance that needs to be maintained. And whatever balance you have figured out obviously works for you. But a pointer that I have for you is try to consume media that serves multiple purposes. If you can find media that both entertains and is insightful, then consume that. If you can find something that is educational and, makes you think differently about an issue, because there is educational media that just agrees with what you're saying and doesn't challenge your beliefs. But if you can find things that do more than one thing in your life, that serve more than one spiritual purpose, those are the things that are really going to help you get ahead. For example, I like apricots. Apricots are sweet and they're nutritional. And I don't know what the exact health benefits of apricots are, but that's a thing. It serves more than one purpose, and it's appealing to me specifically. And that makes it easier for me to do that thing that helps me be physically healthy. So just like with physical nutrition, spiritual nutrition is finding out what works for you and what gels with your specific lifestyle. It really isn't something where one person can look at another person and say, oh, this is what you need to do. Because our spirits are different, just like our bodies are different. We have different spiritual needs that we need to fulfill. And one person's plan isn't going to work for another person. And finally, we come to metabolizing spiritual food. And there are two main ways I think that I have found to do this. And the first one is understanding that we can't be taking in all the time. If we're just gorging ourselves on other people's ideas, we're not leaving ourselves time to develop our own ideas and our own opinions. And so a very big part of spiritual nutrition is sometimes you're not spiritually eating. Sometimes you're just taking a step back, processing what you've just seen or heard or looked at, going for a walk, doing something completely unrelated, letting your mind kind of rest and mull over what you've taken in. And that's a big part of critical thinking, is not just accepting what you find somewhere from someone. And then finally, and this is going to tie into our episode next week, practicing what you have come to in your mind. Because once you've taken in these ideas and these thoughts and these moral concepts, and then after that you've taken them into your mind and you've sorted them out and you've figured out what you believe based on those thoughts, then you need to put it into practice. Or you can put it into practice. And I have found that this is very helpful in understanding the conclusions that I've come to or the things that I've been told. Because when you test something, you can see for yourself the results of doing that thing. And field study is, for a lot of people and in a lot of cases, a much more effective way. And even if it's not more effective, it is a different perspective that gives you more information that you didn't have before. But that is a subject for next week. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this video. If you thought this was interesting, please subscribe, and I hope to see you next week.